Welcome to this next episode of Car Talk. I'm your resident strength and conditioning coach, Johnny Dunbar, and so we're moving. I'm on my way home right now. I was thinking about Olympic weightlifting today. And I was thinking about ways of incorporating Olympic weightlifting into a basketball-centric strength and conditioning program. So here's some thoughts while I'm driving. And I promise, I'm driving safe. People like to go into the chat saying, "That's dangerous." I'm just talking. I'm not talking to somebody specifically. I'm just talking. I would be talking out loud right now if I wasn't live streaming. So just throwing that out there. Because I know someone inevitably goes into the chat and says that. But anyways, strength and conditioning program, Olympic weightlifting, what would I do? How would I do it? How would I incorporate it? Now, you can do strength and conditioning throughout the entire year, and you can incorporate aspects of Olympic weightlifting into your strength and conditioning program throughout the entire year. I wouldn't suggest it. I would probably filter it different forms of power training into your program over the course of the year. I wouldn't exclusively do it, but if I needed to exclusively do it, it could be done. You just focus on different aspects. To start, if I'm incorporating Olympic weightlifting into a program, I would start, in terms of training or preparing somebody, I would get them to start doing front squats. All right? The idea of doing front squats is eventually at some point you would be catching the bar low, receiving the bar low, just like you would do in a classic clean. I wouldn't necessarily start them with a classic clean, but it would depend on their level of skill, and it would depend on their level of experience. If they're able to pick something up really quick, I would probably fast track to classic clean at some point. I wouldn't fast track a lot of volume in the classic clean, but I would definitely introduce it for sure. If they have the skill and they're diligent and disciplined enough to do it, I would. I'd have to watch them like a hawk initially, right out the gate, but for sure I would definitely incorporate that into their program. So if we're talking about basic programming, the person has no experience in training, I'm going to throw the Olympic weightlifting at them. I'm probably going to start off with the power clean, which for people who don't know what a power clean is, it's really just you're starting with the bar high, you're catching the bar high. So I would be working on that. I would probably have the bar. I'd probably start with the power position, which is about the crease of the hip. To start, and it's a short movement, it's really quick, and it teaches you the path of the bar. I would start off with that. Top-down approach is what I would be going for. All right, and then almost exclusively for week one, I would be teaching the power position, power clean, for sure, for anyone who hasn't done it before, and it's almost no way. I could go with a dowel rod to begin with, but I probably wouldn't. I'd probably try to get them to a bar. If they can lift a reasonable amount, then they would definitely do it. But if they can't, if you couldn't bench press the bar or the equivalent of the bar, it makes absolutely no sense to start off with the clean, because it's a lot of weight. So they need to be able to move that weight, and they need to be able to lift that weight. So if you couldn't row or RDL that amount of weight, the equivalent of a bar, you're not starting off with a clean. You probably use with the bar anyway. You would probably start off with a dowel rod. There are some bars that are lighter. There are I've seen 20-pound bars, 15-pound bars, like metal bars. If you can afford those and you have the ability to get them, then yes, you can start off with cleans and use those bars. But most people have powerlifting bars, not Olympic bars, but powerlifting bars, and they have bars that are at 45 pounds, mostly. I've seen at places, when I was working at the college level, 30, 35, 40, 45. So I could do it if I really wanted to. You couldn't do snatches. It would be very difficult to do snatches because it wasn't wide enough, depending on who you were working with. But if you were doing cleans, you'd be able to do it, no problem. I even had 25-pound bars too. Those were shorter bars with the rubber ends to them. That would work too. Be really tough on, if you're loading it up, it'd be very tough. I'm getting into the weeds now. But anyways, so power position, first week, almost exclusively power position. But at the same time, what I would be doing is I would be training in my warm-up another aspect of the lift. So it could be RDLs. It could be front squats. It could be another variation or another starting position for the clean. It just depends on where that person is, what their experience with exercises. If they're a novice, they've never worked out before, I'm going to minimize the amount of volume, the amount of repetitions and sets for the exercise. It's going to be the bare essential. So if that person's never worked out before a day in their life, I'm not doing more than about 6 repetitions per set of, a power position clean, right? That's going to be it. And then if I'm doing another aspect, let's say I start off with power position clean and the majority of my reps are going to be at the power position, then what I would do is I'd get a dowel rod and I'd focus on either overhead squats or I'd focus on above the knee clean using that, right? That's what I would do. Maybe I'd do like 3 or 4 for that. Maybe I'd explore doing a little bit more for below the knee. I could do all 3 or all 4 positions. There's probably more positions people come up with, but I would definitely explore as many as I could, but exclusively I would do a power position. The next week, I could do one of 2 things. I could increase the volume or change the position. So instead of doing power position, I would do above the knee. And then if I really wanted to, I'd just explore and I'd do above the knee. Then week 3, I'd do below the knee. Then week 4, I'd start from the floor, and that would be my first block of training for somebody who would be introduced to Olympic weightlifting for basketball. And the volume would be very low, anywhere between 4 and 6 repetitions. We're not doing it for weight because it's somebody that would be new to exercise, so it wouldn't make a lot of sense. We'd be doing it for just technique, and we'd be just exclusively looking at technique. And then the next cycle, maybe we start adding weight depending on where they are. Now, this is just for that, for power purposes. I'd still be doing my traditional lifts, front squats, back squats, leg press, dumbbell row, bench press, things like that. The Olympic lifting would just be in addition to that. It would be added to the front or the beginning of the workout. It wouldn't be a very important fixture in the workout, for sure. I wouldn't be training them like an Olympic weightlifter, but I would be training them in a way that I would train the Olympic weightlifter if they were a basketball player. So some of these supplementary exercises, the core exercises, would be skewed towards the sport, but also skewed towards how can you maintain some level of equilibrium and balance about each joint, because the balance in the training program is going to be critical to injury prevention, to reducing the risk of injury. That's what it would be. But hopefully this helped. If anyone has questions about it, feel free to send them to me. I know I didn't get a chance to respond to people in the chat. I'm driving, so I'm trying not to look at that, and I can see people posting. I don't know what it is. But I'm going to get out of here, think about what else I want to say. I'll probably go live again at some point to release some information. But take care. Have a good one, everybody.